We begin with a hard truth most people avoid. Betrayal does not begin in the body, it begins in the mind. And the Stoics understood this long before modern psychology named it. Epictetus warned us, "No man is free who is not master of himself. When loyalty weakens, self-mastery has already been abandoned." First sign, she rewrites reality to protect her comfort. One of the most dangerous moments in any relationship is not when betrayal happens, but when truth becomes inconvenient. A subtle yet powerful sign something is deeply wrong is when she begins to reinterpret shared history in ways that absolve her of responsibility and quietly place blame on you. This does not happen loudly. It happens calmly, rationally, almost intelligently. Suddenly, past disagreements are no longer mutual. They were your fault. Moments where you supported her are minimized. Your boundaries are reframed as control. Your standards are labeled as insecurity. Nothing explosive occurs, but something sacred erodes, objective reality. The Stoics understood this pattern well. Seneca warned, "Every vice is the result of error." When someone cannot face their own deviation from virtue, the mind creates a narrative where deviation becomes justified. This is not conscious evil. It is self-preservation at the cost of truth. You'll notice that when you calmly recall facts, dates, actions, words spoken, she does not engage the details. Instead, she challenges your interpretation of reality. "You're remembering it wrong. That's not what I meant. You're too sensitive. You always see things negatively." A Stoic does not argue memory against emotion. He watches how accountability disappears. And here is the critical insight. A woman who is loyal may be upset, defensive, or emotional, but she will still accept shared responsibility. When responsibility vanishes entirely, something else has taken its place. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments they make about them. When someone begins reshaping reality, it is because their internal judgment can no longer coexist with honesty. This is where most men fail. They try to fix the narrative. They over-explain. They argue logic. They attempt to prove sincerity. A Stoic does the opposite. He becomes still. He observes patterns over time, not isolated moments. He measures behavior, not promises. He understands that truth does not require defense, only consistency. If her words increasingly conflict with her actions, if accountability is always externalized, if you are always the problem, yet nothing ever improves, then the relationship is no longer grounded in virtue, it is grounded in convenience. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You do not chase clarity from someone who benefits from confusion. You do not beg honesty from someone avoiding themselves. You strengthen your discipline. You reclaim emotional sovereignty. You act with dignity, whether that leads to repair or release. Because a Stoic truth remains undefeated. What cannot survive honesty is already lost. Second sign, she becomes protective of her freedom, but indifferent to yours. There is a quiet shift that happens before truth ever surfaces. It is not flirtation. It is not secrecy alone. It is a change in moral symmetry. You will notice that her language begins to orbit one idea: freedom, but only her freedom. Suddenly, your need for clarity feels like pressure. Your questions feel like interrogation. Your boundaries are labeled as cages, yet at the same time she grows unusually attentive to your behavior. Where are you going? Who are you talking to? Why didn't you reply faster? This imbalance is not accidental. The Stoics understood that when the soul drifts from virtue, it seeks external permission to justify the drift. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The wrongdoer wrongs himself, but the mind rarely accepts that easily. So it invents threats. When someone is betraying alignment, they begin to fear being mirrored. She becomes hyper-aware of your independence because independence is what she is quietly claiming for herself, without accountability. You may notice this pattern clearly. She demands trust but resists transparency. She wants space but panics when you take it. She frames loyalty as optional for herself, but mandatory for you. This is not empowerment, it is moral imbalance. A woman grounded in integrity does not fear your autonomy. She respects it. She does not confuse closeness with possession, nor boundaries with control. But when someone is living a double reality, freedom becomes a shield. Seneca observed, "A guilty mind always fears." Fear does not always look like panic. Often it looks like defensiveness disguised as confidence. You'll hear phrases like, "I shouldn't have to explain myself." "If you trusted me, you wouldn't ask. I need to feel free to be me." A Stoic listens carefully, not to the emotion, but to the structure of the argument. Freedom without responsibility is not freedom. It is escape. And here is where many men lose themselves. They begin shrinking their needs to avoid conflict. They silence intuition to maintain peace. They trade self-respect for access. But Epictetus was clear. No man is free who is not master of himself. When you abandon your inner compass to keep someone comfortable, you lose before any betrayal is confirmed. The Stoic response is not accusation. It is calm recalibration. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop chasing reassurance. You observe whether her actions honor mutual respect, not emotional speeches. If she reacts to your calm strength with hostility, if your independence feels threatening to her, if your self-control is met with guilt tactics, then the issue is no longer trust. It is misaligned values. And values do not bend under pressure. They reveal themselves over time. A Stoic understands this painful truth. Someone who truly respects you will never need you to surrender your dignity so they can feel free. And if freedom only flows one way, then the bond is already broken, even if the truth has not yet spoken. Third sign, she rewrites the past to justify the present. There is a moment when the past quietly changes shape. Not because memory is fragile, but because conscience is under pressure. One of the clearest signs that something is deeply wrong is when she begins to reframe your shared history, not to heal it, but to invalidate it. Moments that were once loving become barely enough. Sacrifices you made are reclassified as expected. Conflicts that were resolved are suddenly reopened. Not to understand, but to build a case. This is not growth. This is retroactive justification. The Stoics understood this pattern well. Epictetus warned that when people abandon virtue, they rarely admit it directly. Instead, they alter the narrative so their actions feel necessary rather than chosen. She begins to speak as if she has always been unhappy, even if that was never true. You may hear, "I've been feeling this way for a long time. You were never really there for me. I changed, and you didn't." Notice the timing. These realizations do not arise during reflection or honest dialogue. They surface after distance appears, after secrecy grows, after her emotional energy no longer flows toward you. A Stoic listens not only to what is said, but why now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone does wrong, it is because they believe it is right." And belief often requires revision of memory. By reshaping the past, she creates a moral escape route. If the relationship was always flawed, then betrayal feels less like betrayal, and more like correction. This is why the tone feels cold rather than sad. There is no grief in her voice, only certainty. No humility, only conclusions. And here is the dangerous part. If you are not grounded, you will start defending a past that no longer exists. You will over-explain. You will apologize for things you already repaired. You will begin to doubt your own perception. But the Stoic refuses to argue with rewritten history. Seneca observed, "The first step toward wisdom is to know that you are ignorant. The second is to know that others may be wrong." You do not need to prove that the past was perfect. You only need to recognize when the present is being justified by distortion. A woman acting in integrity addresses issues as they arise, not as a postscript to detachment. She seeks repair, not revision. She looks forward with accountability, not backward with blame. When someone repeatedly brings up old wounds with no interest in resolution, they are not seeking understanding. They are seeking permission. Permission to emotionally detach. Permission to feel righteous. Permission to move without guilt. The Stoic response is not denial. It is stillness. You stop defending. You stop reliving the past. You observe whether responsibility is shared or silently reassigned. Because truth does not need rewriting, and love does not require the past to be destroyed in order for the present to survive. If someone must erase who you were together to become who they are now, then the separation has already happened, even if the confession has not. And a Stoic understands this final law. When the past is attacked, the future is already gone. Fourth sign. She starts calling emotional distance independence. There is a subtle shift that happens long before betrayal is spoken. It does not arrive with anger. It does not arrive with arguments. It arrives wrapped in a noble-sounding word, independence. She begins to say things like, "I just need space. I'm focusing on myself. I don't want to rely on anyone right now." On the surface, this sounds healthy, even admirable. But a Stoic does not judge words. We study patterns. True independence does not create secrecy. True growth does not require emotional withdrawal from one bond while energy is quietly invested elsewhere. The danger is not that she wants autonomy. The danger is that emotional intimacy is no longer shared with you, yet she is no longer emotionally alone. This is what the Stoics would call misdirection of attachment. Epictetus taught that desire always flows somewhere. If it leaves one place, it does not vanish. It relocates. When emotional independence is genuine, it comes with clarity, honest communication, consistent behavior, visible boundaries. But when independence becomes a shield, you will notice contradictions. She shares less but reacts more. She explains less but defends more. She guards her time but suddenly has less of it, without clear reason. The connection doesn't end. It is reassigned. A Stoic recognizes that intimacy is not just physical closeness. It is who hears her fears first, who gets her unfiltered thoughts, who receives her emotional reactions in real time. When that is no longer you, yet she insists nothing is wrong, you are witnessing emotional outsourcing. Marcus Aurelius warned, "Nothing is more disgraceful than pretending virtue while acting otherwise." In modern terms, nothing is more dangerous than moral language used to hide misalignment. She may frame distance as maturity. She may frame silence as peace. She may frame detachment as self-respect. But peace does not require concealment. Self-respect does not erase accountability, and maturity does not avoid difficult conversations. It faces them early. Here is where many men lose themselves. They respect the word space so much that they ignore the absence of reciprocity. They remain patient while emotional exclusivity quietly disappears. They pride themselves on being calm while being slowly removed. The Stoic path is different. We do not cling, but we also do not ignore evidence. Seneca wrote, "The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, for he has always labored to rely on himself alone." This does not mean tolerating confusion. It means staying grounded enough to observe without attachment. Ask yourself, is distance paired with honesty or with vagueness? Is independence mutual or one-sided? Is growth shared or privately redirected? If emotional walls rise while explanations grow thinner, something is being protected, not healed. And remember this Stoic truth. A person who is truly becoming whole does not need to disappear from those who stood beside them. When independence becomes an excuse to avoid transparency, it is no longer strength, it is preparation. And the disciplined mind understands this without panic, without accusation, only clarity, because clarity is power.